Hey guys, you're listening to the English Made Simple show. This is episode number 292, number 292, número 292. Welcome back, amigos y amigas. This is your host, Milena, speaking. You're tuning in to the English Made Simple show. You can learn more about the EMS show and what it is all about when you visit englishmadesimple.net. If you want to listen to the podcast straight from the website, simply type in englishmadesimple.net/podcast. And while you're there, you can find a huge repertoire of the EMS episodes, as well as useful resources to help you accelerate your English learning. Thank you everybody for joining me today. Hope you enjoyed those dad jokes I shared with you in the last episode. Did you have a favorite one from that episode? My one was the one about the politicians, the last joke. It's so relevant right now as we have elections coming up in Australia. Well, it's actually this weekend if you're listening to this episode. On the 18th of May of 2022, there are currently federal elections happening in Australia. And it will be my first time to vote in Australia. I've only recently become an Australian citizen. I was a New Zealand citizen before. Actually, I still am New Zealand citizen. I have 2 passports. Anyway, it is mandatory to vote in Australia, so it's my first time voting. If you don't vote, you get fined $70 or something like that. You get fined, basically. Now, going back to the joke that I liked from the last episode, the one about the politicians, well, it's so true. If you go back to that episode, you can have a listen and you'll see what I mean. Especially if you're new to the show, you might want to go back to that last episode number 291, have a listen to all of the jokes and then pay special attention to the last one that I shared with you in that episode. And you'll see what I mean when I said, oh, it's so true. And just because it sounds so true, it makes it funny. Anyway, hope you enjoy it and I hope you find it funny too. Rightio. So today, I'd like to introduce you to a phrase that is very common to hear with English native speakers. You might hear other people use it at your workplace if you're working with people from English-speaking countries. So in today's episode, you'll also have a chance to repeat a phrase after me. So I will select 1 or 2 phrases from today's show, and then I'll ask you to repeat it after me, to repeat those phrases after me. So keep listening to the end of today's episode for your chance to say the phrase out loud so you can practice as well. Now, the phrase I selected for today's episode is keep up the good work. I've selected this particular phrase because the majority of people who completed the recent listener survey for the English Made Simple show said they needed to learn English for work. So the majority of you need to learn English for work. So I'll be sharing more phrases to help you with that. And by the way, if you haven't done the listener survey yet and you're listening to this show, you can still do that. Just go to englishmadesimple.net/survey and just answer those 7 questions. That's it. Easy peasy, Japanesey. And your responses will help me to create new episodes, but also to create something new that will help you practice speaking. Alrighty. The website was englishmadesimple.net/survey. That's all you have to remember. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, like I said. And now on to today's show. Let's learn the phrase, keep up the good work. So, have you heard anyone say this phrase to you before? Keep up the good work. Do you know what it means? You can guess what it means. It means you're doing a great job. So keep it up. In other words, keep going. Keep it up is another phrase that essentially means keep going. Don't stop what you're doing. Just keep going. Keep it up. So you say it to someone when you're acknowledging them for doing a great job with a task or whatever they were working on. You just want to tell them that they are doing a great job. So in today's episode, I wanted to share 3 other ways that you could say keep up the good work in case you wanted to spice it up a little bit and not sound too repetitive at work. So the phrase keep up the good work is common to hear, as I mentioned earlier. So I recommend you learn this phrase first. Keep up the good work. Alrighty? And now let me share the 3 other ways to tell someone that they've done a great job. So, phrase number 1. Just be honest and say, you're doing a great job. Okay? That's your phrase. It can refer to a task that the person is doing at their workplace or working on a project or any task really. It doesn't have to be in a professional setting really. You could be in the kitchen baking a cake and your partner says to you, "Oh, I'm really impressed with your cooking skills. You're doing a great job. Keep going." Well, it sounds nice, but I'm yet to hear these words spoken to me in the kitchen. Although my cooking skills are improving, I've moved on from boiling rice. I can now boil eggs too. All right. On to the next phrase. Phrase number 2. You're on the right track. That's your phrase. This is something that I really like hearing. I would value it as feedback. So if I hear this phrase, it is a good feedback to have, especially when you're at work, working hard on projects, trying to figure things out. You're unsure if you're doing things right or not. And then you have someone say to you, "You're on the right track." That means you're doing it right. Don't doubt yourself. You're going in the right direction. So keep going. It doesn't have to be a statement, actually. You don't have to say, use it in a statement. It can be a question. You could use this as a question with your boss. If you wanted to ask for feedback, when you're asking your boss for feedback, you could say, "Am I on the right track? Should I keep going with project XYZ?" So it's nice to hear from someone when they say to you, "You're on the right track, just keep going." It means you should continue with whatever you're doing. Don't doubt your abilities. Keep going. Keep working in the same way and don't stop. Radio, phrase number 3. It's looking good so far. Keep going. That's your phrase. Oh, you could say, "Hey, Milena, your jokes are getting better and better, so keep going." Let me ask you a question real quick. Are you a professional who has a job that's a bit more creative? For example, you're in advertising, marketing, or you're a website or graphic designer. So let's imagine you're working on a project and let's say you're creating a logo for a customer. You present your customer with the first version of their new logo and then you say, and then they say to you, "It's looking good so far. Keep going." And when you hear those words, then you know you're on the right track. You see how it all fits together now? You're on the right track, so keep going. Your turn now, amigos y amigas. You're going to repeat 2 phrases after me. You know what to do. I'll say one of the phrases. I'll just pick one of the phrases from the list I shared with you, and then you'll try to say them out loud. Here we go. Phrase number 1. Keep up the good work. Keep up the good work. And the next phrase I want you to repeat after me is phrase number 2. You are on the right track. You are on the right track. Cool bananas, amigos y amigas. There we go, guys. You've just learned 3 different ways to say keep up the good work. This brings us to the end of the show. Thanks for listening and thanks for tuning in to today's episode. You're always welcome to visit EnglishMadeSimple.net/podcast to continue listening to the rest of the episodes. It's been a pleasure and I hope you've learned something new today. If something wasn't clear, be sure to send me an email or send me a message on Facebook and Instagram. Even though I don't post that often on social media, I do check my Insta feed, so don't be shy to send me a message. You've been jamming with Milena from English Made Simple. Until next time, hasta la próxima!